Welcome. Good morning. This is the 89th Coffee with the Commissioner meeting. We're very fortunate that we've got Wes Marino with us this morning. We've got Eric Gilmore this morning. We're going to talk about public safety, but our special guest this morning is our very own state rep from District 1, Michelle Salzman. Good morning, Michelle, live from Tallahassee with the beautiful technology of Zoom. We appreciate you being here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's very cold outside, so it's good that it's Zoom.
Well, ain't that the truth? Well, we normally start out with Wes giving an update, but my understanding from speaking with you this morning, Michelle, you got to run to a committee hearing, so we've got you for a limited amount of time. So we're going to change things around and start with you this morning, and of course, give Wes and Eric an opportunity to chime in on any bills they're following. But first and foremost, thank you for what you do. I know can be a thankless job at times, and I know just as I have had, you've had your share of you've taken your share of shots, and so it's very admirable. We appreciate you and what you do and your energy. Someone was talking to me yesterday about you, and they said, "Wow, Michelle Salzman, she's everywhere." And I go, "Yeah, she is." I mean, every event, every banquet, every meet. I don't know how you do it. Do you have a clone?
No, I have a good team.
Right.
My husband's on my team, just like Sally's on your team, and we just work together. And I accepted this job, or I applied for the job, I should say, because I love serving my people. And if I were to stop going to these things and only do this stuff here in Tallahassee, I completely get rid of the whole reason why I'm here personally. So it's a balance, obviously, but I wouldn't change it. I mean, if I couldn't be with my people, I wouldn't do this. So they excuse me. I'll drive to Pensacola from Tallahassee for an event and drive back, and I'll get excused from the floor or the committee or whatever. And I just tell them, look, I got to go be with my people, and they totally get it. They embrace my my will to be there. So it works out. It works out.
I've made that drive as we all have a number of times. It's about 3 hours if you follow the speed limits. So the $1 million question for you, and I promise I won't put you on the spot after this, is how many speeding tickets have you got running back and forth? None?
Nope.
You are one like, what do you use? Like the Waze app, or do you have a different one?
Well, maybe I follow the law. I might drive the speed limit. I'm not going to say I do, because then I'd be dishonest.
Love it. Love it.
I'll
Well,
just
hey,
say that I'm very fortunate. I don't drive extremely fast, and I'm actually really careful when I'm driving, because I always imagine my husband getting that phone call, your wife has passed away because she wanted to go to some banquet, So
yeah,
I try to be good.
you don't want that call. Well, jumping right into it, because I am very cognizant of your limited time. So what's the top 3 bills in your opinion this session for Michelle Salzman? What are your top 3 priorities?
Oh, my prior. Ooh, I like the way that is. Well, I would say I have a bill called the Child Protection Act. House Bill 1 and 3 are very similar, the speaker priority. So I'm not sure how we're moving which ones and who will have what, but those bills are very specifically tailored to protecting children on the internet and putting parameters around social media and how we use it. So that's really important. And then mine has human trafficking components, increasing the penalties for child sex predators that are online, where if they don't actually say certain words, but they're grooming, we're trying to create extensive penalties for that, so that we can put these guys behind bars before they commit the crime. That's a number one. Of course, mental health is always number one, but we have something called the Live Healthy Act. That's the Senate President's bill. It has a price tag of $1.1 billion, and it's increasing access to care in all different types of facets of healthcare by way mostly of just removing some of the red tape and penalties and applications and those government taxes that we typically have, so that we can open the field, so that doctors that are already doctors or whatever, or people that are trying to become doctors, have a path of least resistance. So it's very expensive. It's extensive. There's a lot in that bill. I'm one of the leaders in healthcare. I chair the first stop for a majority of the healthcare bills. So that's obviously in my swim lane already. But most importantly, it contains a lot of stuff with access to care. And the reason why I chose healthcare when I got here to be a part of is because healthcare touches everybody, whether you're newborn, not born, 90, 20, everybody needs healthcare. and it's the largest part of the budget. It's almost $45 billion annually. So it gives me a lot of influence, I guess you could say, in the ongoings of everything, because when somebody comes to me with a bill related to infrastructure, I can add, I can say, where's the healthcare policy that so it gives me get that wiggle room to negotiate what it is that I think is important. And it gives me a seat at just about every table in town. So, but those, the Live Healthy Act is huge. That's the Senate president's priority, my priority. So mental health, that, and then of course, child protection. I've got some great bills that I'm doing that do good things. My Dozier bill, which will definitely move. We're actually probably going to hear it next week. That's going to cost the House around $40 million, but the Speaker's been really gracious to give me that money. And
Michelle, is that for the Dozier School? Is that to go in and archaeologically go and identify what does that bill do?
it's going to give compensation to the living victims.
Okay,
If you're still alive and you prove that you were at Dozier, we're going to give a wrongful incarceration award. It's already in statute. It's not unprecedented. It's not, to call it wrongful incarceration was a creative way. But those people were not taught anything. They were brought in for truancy or whatever the excuse was, and then they were pretty much imprisoned and abused and used to build whatever it was they were building, whether it was farming or whatever. But they were slave labor, and so it's not a lot. It's only $50,000 a year per incident, which is how it is in statute. We're going to do it not per year. We're just going to do it per person if you're alive. And you can and we're also giving GEDs, or I'm sorry, honorary diplomas. So those kids didn't get to actually go to school because they were there and they didn't get a diploma. So Department of Education will be awarding diplomas should they prove that they were at Dozier. They can get that too. So it provides a little bit of closure. It's a good bill. And then we have what else are we hearing? My tribal bill that recognizes the local tribe, and then we've got the term limits bill.
Yep, we're going to talk a little bit about that.
You want to talk about, and I'm here for it.
I want to ask about the Live Healthy Act. They say a lot of the problems, not just Florida but nationwide, is the shortage of doctors, and a lot of folks believe that we should adopt the European model, where students in high school make the choice of whether or not they want to go into engineering, the medical specialties, the professional specialties, or blue collar trades. And then they don't make the path so rigid. They don't make doctors go 4 years to an undergraduate degree studying history and music and other things. They let them go directly to medical school, and they can get the doctors in the field much quicker. And I know the AMA and some other powerful special interests do not want that. But does your bill do anything to break down the wall there? Because it's all about supply and demand. And if you reduce the number of medical school graduates and make them get on the hamster wheel for 12 years, 14 years by the time they do the residency, it's tough. And you're going to have a lot of shortages in OBGYN, other critical areas. So what does your bill do anything to address that?
So the Live Healthy Act is about 400 pages. And, like I said, over $1 billion. Short answer, yes, in many fields, but it's very pointed. It doesn't say all students of all medical. It's very pointed to the different types of fields. And it also opens up, like, for instance, if you're a doctor from Europe and you come to Florida, you have to check all these boxes. You have to go to all these courses. You have to get signed off under some sort of program, maybe not necessarily residency, but somebody has to oversee you and all the stuff. We're omitting all of that. If you're a doctor from certain country, and it's very specific, that's why the bill is 400 pages, you don't have to do all that. You come over, you can practice medicine under a parent license or whatever immediately. And, you go through the process of getting vetted to just verify you can stay on board. And we do that with the foreign doctors on that aspect. We're doing it as you come through the pipeline and workforce development. A lot of the problem is you can't find a residency. These students can't find anybody that'll allow them to be a resident. So what we have decided to do is open that up. So you don't have to have a residency. You can go ahead and start practicing under that specific specialty, like a residency, but it's not a residency slot until you get that residency. So we're doing a lot of very creative things that are not actually making it unsafe, but just opening it up a little bit easier. So we're not waiting all these years.
And I'm sure
And
the
then,
and the doctors advocacy groups are in full support, I'm sure.
that bill is 100, there is the only opposition we have is there's a couple of tiny pieces, the requirement to have, oh my gosh, come on, first responder, what's that called? The transport plan or whatever. You got to have that. That's making some people nervous. And then we're also the birthing centers, we're allowing C-sections. So that's making people a little nervous because you don't have blood banks at birthing centers. And if
Right.
if something goes wrong. So those two tiny things are the only opposition. And I would know, I'm here in the healthcare silo. I mean, there's tiny pieces people want to maneuver around, but overall, everybody's just like, yes, thank goodness, Florida Hospital Association, the Medical Association, the doctors, the nurses, everybody, they're over the moon, excited to see such a monumental movement.
Keep my eye on that. Now, of course, I'm a former school board member. I know you're a former PTA person. We both have a passion for kids and education. Senate Bill 7004 passed quickly out of the Senate. It looks like there's going to be some headwinds in the House. I'm a big accountability guy. I don't like over testing, but I always thought the formative assessments were good at the beginning of course, and then end of course mastery was important. It looks like this bill would eliminate the Algebra 1 exam, which I think is a disastrous mistake. I know Pasadomo has it as a priority. Where are you going to be on that bill?
I don't even know what it is. I'm looking it up.
Oh, sorry.
It's education. So I have to actually have an intentional conversation. What's the number?
Senate Bill 7004. It's part of their education overhaul, truth in education, or whatever they have phrase for it.
Deregulation of public schools assessment and accountability instruction.
I get it. There's a lot of testing that used to kill me, and I thought we over tested. But I think there's a need for a formative assessment at the beginning, and then you have to test these students at the end of the course to make sure they've mastered the subject. Otherwise, you're awarding diplomas and degrees and moving kids forward, and it's akin to social promotion. My opinion only. I'm kind of probably crossing my lines here a little bit, but when I see them,
I'm not a chair of education, so I'm not going to get offended. I haven't read the bill. I just looked at the bill summary.
We'll move on because there's other topics that are more county specific. One of the big issues we have, Michelle, and I know you've seen it driving around the county, is litter. I've talked about it at several meetings. We're kind of constricted in what we can do. We're preempted by the state. But I spent a lot of time in California, went to school there. Obviously, I have family there, was out there over the winter. And I noticed that they have some very stiff penalties for people throwing the bag of fast food out the window and littering. And I want to do something like that here because we have such a tremendous problem with litter on the sides of our roads. 9 Mile Road, Blue Angel, you go up and down Bower, even the interstate, it's littered. And then it's a blame game. Well, that's the state road and they got to get their guy. And I know Wes and his crew, we've got inmate crews out there collecting tons of trash.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to find between $200 and $500. And I know that
just call me next year. Well, I'll do what I can. Maybe I'll file it.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's state statutes that allow us to fine up to $5,000 for illegal dumping. But what that is a guy backing a truck up and dumping all his tires on the side of the road. What we need to find a way, and it's a carrot stick approach. We've tried to be nice, we've done everything we can. But at some point, when you have a $500 fine and a guy throws the Whataburger bag out the window, on Mobile Highway, and one of Sheriff Simmons' deputies sees him do it, it'd be great to say, you know what, you're going to pay a $500 fine. And guess what? When you start doing that, our roads won't look like a dump. So I will take you up on that. I know it's late. You don't think anything like that could be tagged on to any existing bill or a train?
I mean, if you email me the language, I'll go over to infrastructure and see what we can do. I'm willing to go look. I do it actually, you're one of the few that does know what I do. I'll go talk to, we can work on that. Just send it to me. I'll see. But if we don't have a way to do that this year, because we usually have a transportation package.
Right.
But if we don't, I can work on helping you do legislation next year. Send it over.
But I'll tell you something that's kind of humorous. It's funny, as a county commissioner, you talk to your state legislature, you talk to a lot of people. Most of the time, it's a phone call here, a text message here, but you say we talked about stuff. I've got a lot of text messages that were stolen from me, and we're working right now to redact that spreadsheet. So a lot of people are going to learn about how you and I discuss bills during the session. Sorry, Michelle.
I'm an open book. I mean, somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, have you texted Jeff?" I said, I don't know, but I really don't care."
Yeah. So anyway, but a lot of people are going to have some aha moments when they read that, but that's good.
They are. They're going to learn.
They're going to learn. They're going to be
Good. I hope they do.
talk term limits. Okay. I'm going to
Okay.
just, I know because we're running out. I'm watching the clock. The clock's my enemy. Term limits are fantastic. They're great. My thing is, they should be applied equally. Every town hall I do, Michelle, and you've been to a couple of them, I do my question and comments. And when I ask about term limits, it's a sea of green. Everyone supports it. But here's the thing. I think there's a frustration because they see people in leadership at the federal level, congressmen and senators that camp out, they pop a tent and they live there 40, 50 years. They want term limits everywhere. And they see other constitutional officers around the state that serve for decades, like clerks of court. And, a couple of years back, the school board were in the crosshairs and they got their term limits.
PCUA was too.
And now the county commissioners are. And look, like I say, I'm good with it, but I feel like sometimes it's because we've spoken up or we've pissed the wrong person off.
Not me. I mean, I can't speak for my Senate sponsor, but I love y'all. I tell everybody I have a great relationship.
But my final thing before I ask you this is because if you walk to the second floor of our building, it's a rogues gallery. I'll use that term, just in jest, of former county commissioners. It's 2 years, 4 years. Occasionally there's 8, 4 years, 4 years, 4. In other words, in this job, you make enemies just by doing your job. Grover Robinson said it to me when I came on board. He said, "Jeff, this ain't like the school board. You're going to accumulate a lot of enemies. You approve this subdivision here, bang, they hate you forever. You're not able to help this guy on his 21st issue when you've helped him 20 times before. You've got an enemy forever who'll write a check to your." In other words, we make enemies just doing our job, right? So why are term limits necessary for county commissioners? That's my question.
Term limits are necessary for all constitutional officers. We're just chipping at it one at a time.
Got it.
So if I had a crystal ball, I would say in 4 years, every constitutional officer in the state of Florida will be under term limits.
Perfect. Okay. And again, I'm fine with that. We got to do that at the federal level.
And we also passed a resolution on the House floor last week that said we want term limits in Congress.
Oh God, that's fantastic. And that'll
we're very consistent in that. It's not we're not nitpicking, only this guy or that guy. We're very consistent. My bill on Friday will be 12 years, non-retroactive. I don't know what's going to happen in the next committee stop, whether it'll move back to 8 or whatever, but the retroactive piece at most will only include the current term that you're in plus the next term. Okay, that's the way it was. That's the way I was promised by my Senate sponsor, whom I adore very much. We're really close friends, but
I know who he is. He's good.
Yeah, if I need something done in the Senate, I go to him.
No, he's fantastic. And the only final thing I'll say on that topic is I think 12 years is reasonable, particularly because it takes 8, 10, 12 years to get some of these big road projects done. I mean, it's taken 7 years for me, and I've been working on it since day one I was elected to get the Beulah Fire Station project.
I know you just got that out the door. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Honestly, I think 8 creates a level of consistency across what we're trying to do. But I mean, I am indifferent. There are a lot of charter counties that have 12 years. And so that's why we're changing it to 12. The chair of the committee is in a community where they already have 12-year term limits from their county charter. And so respectfully so, I will change it to what she currently has in her county. I actually totally adore that chair. She's been a phenomenal friend. And so I said, you know what, Jenna, make it however you want, whatever you're comfortable with, and we'll hear the bill. It's a moving process. It's going to change as it goes through each way, and whatever the Senate side is, we're going to have to conform eventually. But the Senate sponsor was fine with me moving it to 12. So we'll see where it goes, but you have my word that it's not my intention to have retroactivity. And at most, I would settle for retroactive in the current term you're in. So if you're in your second year, you get 2 more years, plus you can be reelected. If you're being elected for the first time, you'll have 8 years. It should be inclusive of the term you're currently serving, and then the additional reelection. So a lot of folks should have plenty more time, at least 6 more years.
Yeah, no, and I think that, again, I think it's fantastic. And I think it's refreshing to hear that we're not the only targets, that you're going after all the constitutional
I think clerk of court or something will be next. If I were to guess, maybe supervisor of election next. You know, my speaker that will be in my class has a political committee based on term limits. He is so set on term limits for everybody. So I anticipate seeing another term limits bill next year. I mean, I'll carry it. I don't care. I think that if we're being honest, I think it'll be interesting to see if they actually put term limits on sheriffs. I mean, try that one, cowboy. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch. But look, I appreciate the conversation and I appreciate your candor, Michelle. And I'm happy to hear that we're not the only, us and the school board aren't the only ones, because school board members can live forever. I mean, when I was on the school board, there were board members from South Florida who were on there since the Cold War. You know, there's a
ECUA, 30 something years. It's like, guys, retire.
Yeah, and there's
you don't even drive on those roads. Why are you in charge of them? No, I totally get it.
I'm running out of time with you, but I want to ask you about Senate Bill 110. It's the maximum fees. Are you familiar? Have you looked at that one at all? Is that
what is it for?
Senate, it's for where the state sets the maximum that counties can charge for towing vehicles. Are you familiar with that?
Oh gosh, you know, that's a big point of contention in Central and South Florida, where their parking is just out of control. All the fees they charge for parking, the signs are ambiguous. You know how we argue about it in the city? Just multiply that times 10, and that's why that bill's there. It's actually not really about towing at all. I mean, it's the byproduct of people misbehaving when they do the parking signs, and the tow companies are just predatory on it, and people are just making tons of money off the backs of normal citizens. Most of us just traveling, you know, we don't know that the sign really meant for that row over there, and now our car is towed and we got to pay all this money. I believe that's what it is. I mean, I haven't looked at the bill, but I do know that we did this bill last year, and I don't know what happened to it, but I agree with, I haven't read it, but I agree with the overall reasoning behind it. We got to get these parking signs and these parking companies, all that stuff has to be under control, and you shouldn't be able to just do unlimited penalties to somebody because they parked in the wrong place.
I don't disagree with that. And I know I'm running out of time, but I'm going to keep you until you run out. I'm going to keep you until you run out on me. It looks like House Bill 1239 is a semi-fix for the Live Local Act, which had these ridiculous things in there about, you know, you can build a skyscraper on industrial property, housing. I'm assuming that's something that you support, because that bill was not very well thought out, and really,
we've had a lot of feedback on that, and that's what, you know, that's what we do. We've redone our school choice bill in special session. I mean, we're a fluid operation. It's a work in progress, and we're always willing to go back and make things better if we don't do it right the first time. That's why we're always moving bills. But I certainly support what my local community supports. Whatever y'all's priority is always my priority. So I don't know where it's at, but I do know that that's a big part of conversation for a lot of people.
House Bill 151, a lot of pension benefits, state employees, county, municipal. I'm glad.
I think my name's on it.
I thought it was too, but I wanted to ask you about it because I know that a lot of teachers, a lot of people that did, you know, blue collar jobs through the counties for all the years and retired, they weren't getting any kind of a bump on their cost of living.
I know we got to keep moving on that too. I'm hopeful that next year we'll do more, and we're going to incrementally make some impacts on that. Yeah.
Do you anticipate any headwinds? Do you anticipate anyone to kind of shut that down? I hope not. I mean, I think it's fair to the people.
Oh no.
Okay, good.
No.
Well, I wanted to give Wes and Eric, you've got your state rep here right now. She's running, but do you guys have any particular bills you'd like to throw her away, or that you think that are very important?
I think one thing we're tracking on is a proposal to increase the local sovereign immunity claims caps.
Yes.
It could have a pretty big impact here on the county locally. And I kind of read a little bit of the backstory of why it's being proposed, but it could have a pretty significant impact.
A good or a bad one?
Bad.
Okay, just text me the bill number. You don't have to say anything else. I just need it so I can go look and see who the sponsor is. If you're willing, I'll have to find out what's going on. Is it one of those bills that's really going to pass? You know, because there's a lot of stuff that you don't see behind the scenes. So if I get the bill number, I can look into it for you.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that.
Eric,
that's one of my biggest ones.
Okay, Eric, you got anything from public safety?
No, there was not a whole lot of public safety bills going on this time, and it was the one that was the most one interest around here was the special risk for our firefighters and everything, the changes that they were doing on that. But I don't think there was too much strife in that. I think there was some positive. There was some good outcomes in that one for those guys. So no, nothing negative. So
Wonderful. Awesome. Well,
Well-
I love y'all all. I literally run about a mile up the road to go present this bill and crack down on illegal gambling.
Don't let them do it, and don't be late, Michelle. Do not be late.
You know, if that's the worst thing that happens to me, I had a good day.
Well, it was great talking to you. Thank you. Have a great session, and I know I'll be talking to you or texting you. Have a great
Absolutely.
Talk to you.
Absolutely. Take care.
bye, Michelle.
See you.
guys. Thank you very much for indulging me there. There's some good information from Representative Salzman. And so without further ado, Wes, I saw your crews out there putting sand on bridges yesterday. I saw our crews out there doing it. Tell me what's going on with this weather. I know our guys are working hard out there.
Yeah, they're working hard. You know, we had some concerns yesterday morning, me and Eric, and we talked throughout the day about ice on the roads and bridges and such. And, you know, this is something we do when we get this kind of weather. We always sand the bridges, especially in the north end. But as I drove around yesterday afternoon, I know Eric was covering some ground and Jamie at Higdon at Public Works. A lot of the roads seemed to dry out by mid-afternoon with the sun and the wind blowing and the cars, just the traffic on them. So when it come to make the call about business today, I said, well, we're just going to be business as usual today. I think we'll be fine. You know, you close down the county today, everybody's going to go run and go shopping and go eating dinner and lunch and all that stuff anyway. So
Right. You know they are.
yeah, they are. So we made the call to just business as usual. I know the school board is closed, and I understand why. The kids at the bus stops and the wind chills and the temperatures on the buses. I think that was a good call on their part. But for us, I think we're going to be business as usual. We'll have a productive day today. And yesterday, I spent some time in meetings with both sides of the house, Debbie's side of the house, Debbie Bauer's side of the house, and Wesley Hall's side of the house.
Okay.
And it was good just to hear the directors giving their updates. A lot of good work going on in Escambia County and all the departments. I mean, everything from library services to animal services to public safety to engineering and public works. And I mean, it just these guys are driving hard in the departments. We got a good group of directors. They got a good staff. And we're making a lot of headway. And we put a story out last week. I don't know how much traction it got, but last fiscal year, Commissioner, the board awarded over $100 million in construction.
I saw that. That's
that went out.
incredible. That's amazing.
That is a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
And you know, the impact on the local economy, just the impact on the community with the type of projects that we're getting done. And engineering, I can't say enough about Zoya Blackman and her staff and Rob Hogan at facilities. Just driving that work. Michael Rose at Parks driving that work. He made a pretty large announcement yesterday. You're going to hear more of coming in the spring. There'll be a big announcement with SEC, and we're looking forward to that. And it'll be good for our community. But you know, we came to the holidays. We're doing well. Everybody's hitting on all cylinders. We've already started budget talks. Myself and Stefan sat down last week. We're already starting the budget process because it just takes that long. And so we're starting that process, and things are, you know, I keep saying it, things are going well. They're going really well throughout the county. And there's a lot of good work getting done. And I'm proud of these guys, proud of the team, proud of the staff, and I can't say enough about them. I mean, $100 million in a year, a fiscal year, that's great. And we're going to have another story coming out. We're going to say how many grant dollars we brought in last fiscal year. And that's going to be a significant number. And we're still driving. You know, we had our agenda, the last board meeting. And while it wasn't a large agenda, we recognized millions of dollars in grants on the budget finance consent agenda. And, you know, I kind of get used to it. I know that the grants get kind of a big deal. They get mentioned a lot here lately. But ever since I've been with Engineering Canada, we've always brought grants in. I mean, it's right. You know, sometimes maybe I don't give it enough attention and call it out as much as I should, but because it's just what we do. We're chasing grants. I talked to Chip Kirstenfield yesterday. You know, they've got a bunch of grant submittals that we've submitted and applied for that we're looking to hear good things out of moving forward. So we're just doing great. Kudos to the folks that are out in the cold yesterday and today, standing bridges and doing the things they have to do to keep the roadway safe. And we're just doing good. We really are.
And I will point out, Wes, too, there actually was a very, very complimentary article in the Pensacola News Journal about Tim Day, Chips Kirschenfeld, and the work that they've done bringing Restore Act projects to bear. I guess we lead in all the counties in the affected area. We're number one. Santa Rosa's done a good job as well, but we're number one. So it was good to see some positive news coming out there. And I know grants, they're out there. They're things that we get. We get a ton of them for our ECAT. Every single year we get grants. And I know in some of these instances, the grants they come with these onerous back end reporting requirements that are very, very staff intensive. So a lot of folks don't realize that. It's one thing to say, hey, look at us, we got 50 million in grants or whatever. I'd like to know how many staff it takes to now go on the back side of it and fill out all the requirements, the reporting, the quarterly. How do we handle that, Wes? Do we got when someone goes out and gets a grant, did they own the responsibility in the county of doing the back end reporting?
They do. Natural Resources Chips and his bunch, they do all the reporting on their grants and all the back work that has to be done. And it's not just the reporting. When you get these certain grants, they have to be procured a certain way. You have to have certain things in the procurement process to be able to meet the specifications of the grant. So purchasing and procurement play a role in that. And then Liz Kissel, here on the fourth floor, she is helping to track all the ARPA grant and all the ARPA money and all the reporting that has to be done there. And she's constantly chasing staff. I mean, it's just got to be done. And then engineering is the same. They're reporting and doing all the things that they need to do. It's a lot of work to go through the grant process, and we're actually looking at maybe procuring some software to help us with that. That will help us roll all of our grants into one database, if you will, and help us track the reporting features, help us track how many we have out there that we've applied for, how much we've been awarded. And we're looking forward to that. And it's not a very expensive software package. It's like 30 grand. And so we're looking at that. We got Russell Clark and IT's helping Chips go through that. So that'll be a big deal for us if we can get that software. If it looks like it's going to be productive for us, we're going to move forward with it. And but you're right, it's a lot of work on the back end. It's not just here's your money, go do good things.
Right.
They're gonna come looking. The auditors will come and they will absolutely go through it. And if you don't cross all the T's, dot all the I's, you're gonna pay money back. And that's not something we want to have to do. So we're working hard to meet all those requirements.
So Wes, let me ask you, I know our jail, we had a little bit of a discussion at our last meeting about, and it's been a concern of mine for a while, but I talked to Rich Powell on a semi-regular basis. I get a lot of emails that concern his department. And I'll reach out to him, but the jail medical, obviously it's expensive. I know medical care in general is expensive. We had a little bit of a conversation with Michelle about the reasons why, and it's a nationwide phenomenon, not just here, but the discussion about the nurses, and I know we use some staffing services to help keep us fully staffed. A couple of years back, we looked at potentially outsourcing the entire function. And I mean, is it getting to a point in terms of expense that's something that would become viable in your opinion?
When we looked at it, it was going to be much more expensive than what we're doing now.
That's how I remembered it. Yeah, that's how
it was going to be much more expensive. We actually cut $1 million out of the proposed budget for jail medical this current fiscal year, tracking the cost from the previous fiscal year. I told Stephen, I said, I think we can cut $1 million out of jail medical pretty easily. And so we did that this fiscal year out of the proposed budget. And we're looking at, I know we had the discussion in the last board meeting. So we're pulling all those numbers, that information about wages and salaries for some of the medical staff, especially the nurses, because we have made some adjustments there in that area. So we're going to sit down with Chief Powell, and we're going to go through them and see which positions we actually adjusted, which ones may still be there that might need to be adjusted a bit. But I understand their concerns and I understand the environment they're working in. And it's a tough environment. There's no doubt about it. And so we are looking at some of that. And if we need to make adjustments, I'll come and I'll recommend that to the board.
Right on, Wes. Well, I appreciate you looking into that. Yeah, that just seemed like that got everyone's attention. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon up on that dais. Lumen's daughter's a nurse. My daughter's a nurse. Mike Kohler is a nurse. Steven's wife is a nurse. So we're all touched by that profession. And you know, the sad thing is at some point in our lives, that's one profession we're all going to interact with. I mean, you know, unless
Yeah.
something strange happens. So,
My daughter-in-law's a nurse.
oh, is she really? Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Right on. So yeah, they're important. And I know they're under nationwide. There's a shortage. So I appreciate you looking at that. And Wes, just appreciate the job that you're doing. You know, I get compliments all the time about your employees, and I always try and pass them along as I get them in writing, because I think it's important. We had the Martin Luther King parade, and we had 4 employees from the roads department gave up their own time to come in on a holiday. And what a great day it was. A great celebration downtown of a great man. And just, you know, little things like that that our employees do. And, you know, just they make it a lot easier for us to do our jobs. But I just really appreciate the roads group there. You know, when we have trash, you know, I text it to you, your guys go out and pick it up. It's, you know, again, we have, it's funny. It just reminded me, I got another Facebook message about some more trash, and I'll talk with you online about it. But do you think if Michelle Salzman was able to add some language, is that something, do you think, I mean, I feel like the board would be behind me, but what are your thoughts on that, Wes? Do you think if it was a $200, $300 fine, maybe folks would think twice about throwing the Whataburger bag out the window?
Yeah, I think if the enforcement was aggressive and people started taking notice, I think it would make a difference. I don't understand it either, Jeff. I mean, I drive Mobile Highway every day, and from one end to the other. I know we got the ladies that go pick up that garbage out there, and they spend a lot of hours out there picking up the garbage, and we come pick it up and give them bags and so forth. But I just don't understand. Everybody, all of us, well, I say near about all of us stop at a convenience store, usually at least once a day or every other day at a minimum. And there's so many garbage cans and garbage receptacles just empty your car out, put it right there. It's right there. And,
Right.
you know, I did it yesterday. I emptied all the cups out of my truck and whatever I had and put it right there in the garbage receptacle. It's too convenient. It's too easy.
What a great public service announcement. Hey, when your gas pump is in there and that's on the autofill, open your car and dump your trash right there, right? Hey, dude, multitask. Don't put it on our roads.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but it's just too easy not to hit
I'm going to find a transportation bill. You know, I talk to Michelle very frequently during this session, and sometimes Representative Andrade and even Senator Broxton. I'll text him and call him. If I can find a bill that I think this could be an add-on to, I'm going to look to do that, because again, other parts of the country, if I can just say this, they don't have the issue. They don't have the issue because they put a stiff penalty, and people, it's kind of like for a long time, people were talking and texting on the phone in Florida. Other parts of the country, like California, they put a ban on it. I'm not here to celebrate California. I love the weather. I love the physical beauty. I hate the politics, but they get some things right, like infrastructure and littering. And so they had this thing real quick. They figured out texting and driving was not safe. They put laws. They figured out talking on your phones, maybe not the best idea. They put laws, and guess what? People stopped doing it. Same thing with litter. I think, you know, if we could do that here, I really would like to pursue that. I think it's something that really irritates people. I get a lot of calls. As you guys know, I forward the emails to you. I get a lot of emails, a lot of calls. Why does this place look like a dump? So that's something I'm going to go forward with. But Wes, appreciate everything you guys are doing. And Eric, I appreciate everything you're doing. Thanks for your patience and getting up and getting on the call. I'm sorry I had to rearrange it with Michelle's schedule, but good conversation. So what's going on in public safety?
That's what we do here. We're flexible, so that's no problem. So, hey, on the trash thing, can our code enforcement write violations if we find like trash on the road with names on it or something like that and tie it back to a person?
I don't know, but I just don't know that allows for enough of a stick. In other words, I know they can't, if our code enforcement's out with their truck with a star on it and they see a guy dump 3 Whataburger bags, a Taco Bell out the other window, I don't think they have the power to do anything. Now, the sheriff's deputies could, and I think, and last time I talked to Chip about it, he said he'll pull people over. But again, you know, we are preempted from really finding them. So they get a warning or whatever the case might be. But again, it's like talking and texting. Other states enacted legislation, ordinances, people stopped doing it because otherwise they got a big stiff penalty. No one wants to pay the fine. So I think we had a $200, $300, $400 fine. A couple people get it, the word gets out, and you know, you actually have to pay it. Or you lose your license. Yeah, people are going to stop throwing the Whataburger bag out the window. So long answer to your question, Eric, but I don't think our code enforcement have enough of a stick to be able to do it.
I got you. Just trying to think of things we have right now that possibly work. So no, so public safety. I think things are going great here at public safety. It's been a busy 2 months. I think October was our last coffee with the commissioner. So
Yeah.
we wrapped up our keep the wreath green campaign, our fire safety campaign for the month of December. We wound up with 13 bulbs on the wreath. Unfortunately, we had 13 structure fires that affected people during the holiday season.
No deaths though. No deaths.
No deaths, no fatalities. Absolutely. So, and then of course, now that we're having a cold snap and, it's going to be cold pretty much all week and through the weekend. It's not going to be as cold as it is today. But we put a space heater safety thing out, for warming element because people are going to find ways to get warm. And we had 2 structure fires this morning on right back to back. So, crews got out there and handled the structure fires this morning. I know one family was finding alternate means for the family to find some shelter and get out of the cold weather. So, but I just remind everybody, heat the space heaters and those electric blankets and those electric heaters, please utilize them safely. Make sure they're away from any combustible stuff and don't leave them unattended. I mean, just don't leave them plugged in all day and leave the house. So, make sure you're doing what you can to keep yourself and your family warm, one, but also safely do it. So we don't want anybody having to burn their house down while we have this cold snap going on. So,
Absolutely.
but no, so as far as how public safety is going, emergency management, they've been busy with the storm last week. So we was up all last Monday, out on the roads and looking at went to the beach, check out, make sure, see what's going on out there, and just kind of riding around waiting for the front to come through. So we rode that out last week and we come out pretty good. We had minimal structural damage, 1 tree on a house and a roof taken off the barn from another structure. But no tornadoes. They had those to the east of us, unfortunately. And Panama City was greatly affected by that storm last week with the tornadoes that was on the ground. So, but yeah, and then of course the inclement weather we're having here lately, yesterday and today, and school district, they know what their situation is. Talking to Superintendent Leonard, he got appointed last night by the school board.
Yeah,
And
congratulations to Keith Leonard. He's doing a great job. Congratulations.
Absolutely. I've had very good conversation with him. That is a most down to earth guy, common sense, just, easygoing. So talking to him, he knows those kids at the bus stops. The buses aren't on a regular schedule. Sometimes the bus is delayed, 30 minutes, and you don't want that kid at the bus stop extra 30 minutes. And, when I'm coming to work or, my wife's a teacher and everything, we hear stories about the kids showing up in weather like this in shorts and a t-shirt. And you're like, they did what they had to do. They know the heating situation at the school. So, a lot of people were talking about that, but, I think it was the right call for the situation for Escambia County School District. So, fire's kicking, EM's been busy, 911, those guys in dispatch, of course, during the storms, they get ramped up with all the calls and the lines down, the trees down, the limbs down. And kudos, I want to talk about Jamie and his crew, the public works guys.
Yes.
Those guys are Johnny on the spot. We have a situation, a tree down, sand in the bridges. It's just as simple as going, hey, Jamie, what you got? Can you handle this? And he's got it. They're on it. Those guys are so responsive, and I appreciate that. That is a great relationship that we have with those guys, and Jamie is so responsive. The crews are out there, and they get the job done. So, I mean, without them, we couldn't do emergency services because we can't get the trucks down the road. We can't get to where we need to get. So those guys do go out there and make a difference for us to be able to handle emergencies.
You know what, Eric? You just said something that really spurred a thought. Those guys do such a good job that in some respects, you forget about just how good a job they're doing. And it's one of those situations where they're so good at what they're doing, you don't realize it until one of them is out sick or something. Then you're like, wait a minute, what happened? They're a victim of their own ability. You know what I mean? And so
You're right.
Knows, he's shaking his head. I mean, it's like you do such a good job for so long, such a sustained commitment to excellence that people just think that's the new standard. And then, a position changes or something. So that really speaks to our employees and what we do. And that's why whenever I get the compliments, I just want to pass them along because we do have great employees that do a lot. And it keeps our county running smoothly. And there's always going to be little hiccups here and there. But for the most part, I mean, like you said, I was driving around yesterday, Muskogee Road, and I was right behind. They were out there standing the bridges. I mean, it's great to see it. It's great to see it. Hey, Eric, I also want to give a kudos to you. You send out the weekly report. And I appreciate that. That's a report that's full of great information. He sends it to all the commissioners about the number of calls responded to, the types of calls, the property damage, the amount. And it just speaks to our emergency services, fire and EMS, what they're doing for the citizens. And to that point, Eric, I know we've had some challenges with staffing, but last time we spoke, you had some good news about paramedics and staffing.
Yes. So let's talk about the EMS real quick. Absolutely. So we've got some of our employees that we put through paramedic school, and they finished up. So they're just going to take their test. So that's going to be 5 individuals that we could put on the road, additional paramedics. We're excited about that. Been working with Wes and the board. You guys agreed to up our staffing levels at the last budget, when we went through our last budget cycle. We did a batch of them right as soon as October 1 hit, and now we're working on the second batch of them. I appreciate Wes and the administration helping us some work to get additional staffing levels up. That's going to help us out tremendously. Here lately, we have been tremendously busy in EMS because of all the what we call ILI, influenza-like illness. So we're getting cardiac arrest and everything like that, but we're getting a lot of flu, a lot of strep, a lot of COVID. COVID is resurging again, and people are calling the ambulance for a ride to the hospital, and that is not what that thing is there for.
Exactly.
So we want, go to your primary care if you're sick. I mean, if you're running a fever, you're vomiting, your throat, you got a sore throat, influenza-like illness is not something that we need to take a truck and pick you up and take you to the hospital. It's not going to get you back faster. I promise you. They're going to triage you and put you in the waiting room with everybody else. So
let me ask you something, Eric. When we get a call like that, I'm assuming our dispatchers, I know that they are trained to kind of, as best they can over the phone, just determine whether or not it's really a call that's worthy of us sending an ambulance crew, potentially diverting it away from the ability to respond to a stroke or a heart attack. Do our people say, wait a minute, you want an ambulance because you've got chest congestion and you're coughing? Do they really try and do that?
We send an ambulance to every one of those calls. Yes, sir. We don't turn anybody down. They call for service. Now, if we're heavy call load, they'll prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
If we got 15 trucks on the road or 14 trucks on the road and all 14 are responding to a call and 2 of them are doing a influenza-like illness and a cardiac arrest comes in, we divert that call. That truck now goes, that's a low priority call. Sickness, I've got a sore throat or chest congestion, it diverts to the cardiac arrest.
Okay.
So we prioritize the call. So it's a lower acuity call. We've had, I'm not kidding you. We talk about the stub toe. We literally 3 weeks ago had somebody call him with a stub toe. I'm not kidding. We had one guy last week call us because he sprained his ankle 2 days ago and now he wants to go to the hospital, which is 2 blocks away.
Yeah. I mean, that's when maybe you send an Uber. I don't know. There's got to be.
We're trying to figure out legally what we can do, because here's the situation. You don't know what it is until you get there. It could be an elevated situation. I can tell you I got chest congestion and everything like that. And really I'm having chest pain and they put me on a strip and now I'm running, you don't know what you don't know until you get there. So we're trying to figure out a way to, how do we do rapid triage? We just can't tell you no on the phone. We're going to send you, but we do tell them, all right, you're going to be holding for a little bit. If your situation changed, please call back. We are busy, extremely busy right now. So we do those things with the callers. We try to take care of those higher priority calls. Those mean much more to, wrecks with, trauma alerts, cardiac arrest. Those are the ones that we need to be getting out there too, not the stub toes, not the sprained ankle, not my back's been hurting for 3 days and today I decided I want to go to the hospital. This happens day in and day out with this system here. So,
on that topic, I happened to see a news report on Channel 3 about Okaloosa County, and they have blood available. Is that something we're working toward, having that same capability, or do we already have it and I'm just not aware of it?
No, we do not have that capability. It's a discussion that we really hadn't talked throughout, because we're fortunate. We've got 2 trauma centers right here.
We do, yes.
So it's not a time distance travel. We're pretty quick. We get the patient to the hospital pretty quick by the time they need to have blood. So Right now, I don't think it's feasible for us to do that system because of what we have here in our county.
But you're saying, but I'm hearing it's not maybe as necessary because we have the trauma centers.
Exactly. So.
Gotcha. Final question, man. I got to ask you, and it's coming.
Go ahead.
It's one of 2.
Okay.
How is our ambubus looking these days?
The ambubus is 100% ready to rock and roll. It's ugly. It looks like a school bus. We're trying to figure out a way to wrap it, paint it, do something, work with somebody. if we wrap it, all those little rivets, you won't get the wrap in there and it'll deteriorate after a couple of years and start showing rivet heads. To paint it, we need to sand it all down. We don't have a paint booth big enough around here to do it. So it is operational. If it needed to go out right now, it could go out. It's fully operational, ready to go. It's
And
just,
where's that thing stationed at? EOC?
it's here at the public safety. It's parked over here off to the side. Yes, sir.
If I come out there, you're gonna give me a tour?
Come on. We'll
might-
walk you through it.
I want to take some pictures of it. No, I just think that's a really cool deal. And I can't wait to see the final, but it's good to know it's ready. So if we had a big mass casualty incident, that thing rolls.
It can go. Absolutely.
Siren on it?
It does have lights on it. Yes.
Right on, man. I
They
gotta,
converted the stoplights to
Yeah, yeah.
LED flashing lights. Yeah. And put them in the grill. Yes. So
I'm gonna come see it. And then the other thing I want to point out for everyone who's watching or who will watch this when we put it on the website, Beulah Fire Station, I mentioned briefly earlier and with Michelle Salzman in my discussion about just the nature. And Wes, you've been here a long time. You see how these projects go. It just takes years and years sometimes. And, one commissioner, an example I will give was Gene Valentino in District 2. There was a big thing with Larry Newsom. They were going to do a evacuation route from Perdido Key Drive, and then it would go Sorrento, and then all the way out of the county. And it was everyone, all hands on deck. FDOT was there, and Nath Prasad, Gene. An election happened, and then that priority changed. Someone didn't want to 4-lane this road, and all the dominoes fell. So, 8 years. Sometimes that's not enough time to get these big things done. Look at the Beulah interchange. From day one, before I became a commissioner, we were working on that. Now it fell just outside the 10-year cycle. So, I mean, so I say that to say the Beulah Fire Station, all that to say, it's been a 7-year evolution. We're supposed to open that in the next couple of months. I drove by it the other day. It looks fantastic.
Mhm.
What's the status on that thing, Wes and Eric?
Waiting on the doors. Waiting on the doors.
On the folding doors, right?
We're waiting on the doors. We had to wait on the transformer and the power plant and all that other stuff earlier, or toward the end of last year. And now we're waiting on the doors. It's been just some issues with availability of some of the materials that we need, such as the doors, but that's the last big step. And hopefully they'll be here, like you said, in the next couple of months. And we'll be able to cut a ribbon and move in, and we'll be ready to roll. And I agree with you, 12 years. The first year, commissioner's getting his feet under him. And then the second year, he knows what the second term, okay, now we know what we've got to go after. And then it takes that third term to kind of land a plane, sometimes, if you will, on some of these larger projects. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's, and again, Wes, it's, as a former school board member, I saw him go after school board members when they asked some legitimate questions to the state, and they kind of gored some sacred cows. And so suddenly they were targeted. I think the county commissioners, we must have pissed someone off, because I don't think they're ever in the world going to go after the other constitutionals the way they've gone after us. And so they're going to do what they do. We can't control it. They've got a lot of power, but I appreciate all the work on that fire station in Beulah. It's a very sad tragedy. We had a firefighter that was killed, and I'm so looking forward to bringing Steve McNair and the Bradshaw family out there when we dedicate that building and open it. It's going to be fantastic. And so I couldn't leave the topic of fire stations, Eric. I couldn't let you off the hook, and Wes, without talking about the fire station to replace 20 down on Bauer. Do we have any new information? I know we bought the pumper truck.
Mr. Opelinick sent an email last week that I saw, says he thinks he's getting some movement and to expect something relatively soon, is what he said. Now, what that means exactly, I don't know, but it is continuing to be worked and is continuing to be tracked and pushed to try to bring that in.
Well, I think that would be a great thing. And I know you guys, I've been pushing you guys on that for a long time. And again, it's another example. I've been pushing that thing for 5 years, 5 years. It just takes time. It might take, those people down there, their ISO ratings went up, and I understand there's other areas in other parts of the county that are 5 or more miles away from station. But the difference is, and this wasn't you, Wes, or you, Eric, neither of you were in the positions you were in when those decisions were made, but those folks down there had a station and they had a low ISO rating, and then it went up when the station was closed, even though they only responded, I'm told at the time, to 1 structure fire per year on average. And I was also told the duplicative coverage from the Lillian volunteers was, a mile and a half away. Neither of those things panned out into reality. Both the people that made that decision are gone. And I have to own it. So that's the reason that I'm driven on that. We need to get that done. We need to bring it in. So I appreciate the update on that. Wes, so final question on staffing. Firefighters, we looking good on are we fully staffed for our all our billets?
We're looking good on
No, not-
firefighters, looking good on EMTs and paramedics, and Public Works is doing much better. They've back all their budgeted positions are about full. They've what a switch has been flipped somewhere, and people have started not coming through the gate,
Good.
applying. And I think some of our efforts in helping folks pay for their CDL license has helped immensely.
Yes. Yes.
ECAT as well. The board with our last wage adjustment over there went to $18.82 an hour to start for a commercial driver's license in mass transit. And so we feel like that's going to give us some opportunity to reach out to some other organizations that may have drivers that want to come work full time all year and not just a portion of the year. And so we're going to look at some of those. We have some crucial vacancies. Development and growth has not slowed down at all. That's one thing we were talking about yesterday. We have a engineer position there in development services that we need to fill desperately. And we're having a hard time filling that position for the pay that we're looking at. And we're looking at over $100,000, and we still can't attract the applicants to fill that position. So we're having to use a consultant. And so my concern is that I'm going to pay way more to utilize a consultant than if I just increase the pay on this engineer position. But then you have other engineer positions throughout engineering that, you create compression. So it's just always a dance. It's always, trying to figure out how to get it done.
Right.
So we do have a critical position there that needs to be filled. But all in all, throughout the county, we're doing much better. We probably have a little under 300 vacancies.
I was going to ask you that because Crystal had a spreadsheet and it was 500, then it was 400. So I know we're making progress. What about final one is the corrections officers? I know they had the mandatory overtime. I believe they've come off of that. The last time I talked to Rich Powell. So that's good news. But so far as you know, Wes, are we still looking at a lot of vacancies over there for the corrections officers?
There's some vacancies. We have a lot of folks that, and this was the topic the other week, that they don't follow through on their commitment to either complete the training and their certification, or for whatever reason they back out. And so we've had quite a few of those. But for staffing their corrections is adequate, is where it needs to be. We still have some positions that we defunded, if you remember. And so we're still holding on to some of those positions. We did get some back, but we're still holding on to some that we defunded, just to try to keep personnel in check, budgets in check. And we'll, again, like I said, we're talking with Stefan already. We're already looking through the personnel stuff for this coming fiscal year. And we'll do the dance, and we'll do what we have to do.
Well, great guys. I appreciate y'all getting up early, and I really good updates though, good stuff. And just keep my fingers crossed for that Station 20 replacement, and just looking forward to cutting the ribbon on the new Station 2. That's going to be a great asset for the community. So just appreciate you guys being here this morning. I appreciate Representative Salzman. I know she had to run out, but thanks for everything you're doing. And everyone who watched, hope you all stay warm, have a great rest of the week. And Wes and Eric, you guys have a great rest of the day. And again, I appreciate your participation.